Imagine this, Gong Bilang and Gong Ziwei are siblings. Their father had passed away a few years ago. One day, their mother, Gong Ah-so, suffers a severe stroke that leaves her with significant brain damage. She can no longer speak, make decisions, or manage her own affairs. Thankfully, their mother has lots of money in her bank account and CPF, and she owns her own HDB flat. With these assets, paying her medical bills, engaging a caregiver, or renovating the house to make the house safer are not an issue. But here's the thing, because she didn't appoint anyone to act on her behalf, these assets cannot be touched by anyone else. Yeah, not even her own kids, since all of them have no legal authority. Now, in order to touch the assets now, they will have to apply to the Family Justice Court to get what is known as a Deputyship Order, whereby a person will be able to use the money owned by Gong Ah-so to, say, pay for the medical bills. This seems simple, but both Gong Bilang and Gong Ziwei must agree on the Deputyship Order, and in addition, it's a legal process. So anyone who has been through any legal proceedings will know this. For complicated legal proceedings, there will be lots of legal fees costing up to thousands of dollars, and court proceedings might take up to half a year. So, during this process, it's common for family members to quarrel. Now, just so you know, they are not quarreling over who should inherit the assets Gong Ah-so has. That one is another drama, usually a Hong Kong drama. Instead, they are quarreling mainly on what to do based on the assets that are of the best interest for Gong Ah-so. Because when the assets are used, they cannot just anyhow be used, but must be used at the best interest for Gong Ah-so. Because this money spent must be reported. Basically, they are making decisions based on what Gong Ah-so will do. Therefore, long story cut short, it's rather stressful, and many family members have fallen out because of this while deciding who should be the deputy, and the long and expensive process of getting a deputy add more stress. But this headache can be avoided with something known as the lasting power of attorney, commonly known as LPA. In 2010, the lasting power of attorney was introduced to solve the issue. How it works is simple. Let's go back to the Gong family example. Before Gong Ah-so has a stroke, she could have spoken to her kids about who should be responsible for helping her make decisions should she suddenly lose her mental capacity. So, say, Gong Bilang decided that she will take the responsibility of making decisions for her. Then they can create a lasting power of attorney for Gong Ah-so, listing Gong Bilang as the decision maker. So, when Gong Ah-so has a stroke, Gong Bilang and Gong Ziwei won't need to go through the process of quarreling, looking for lawyers to apply for a deputyship order, while paying thousands of dollars in legal fees and potentially waiting for months before they can handle Gong Ah-so's affairs and assets. Instead, Gong Bilang's role as what is known as a donee will immediately take effect, whereby she will get access to Gong Ah-so's assets and can make decisions for Gong Ah-so. Of course, a doctor must certify that Gong Ah-so has lost her mental capacity before the LPA can take effect. Now, I know what you are thinking. Eventually, without an LPA, Gong Bilang can still make decisions for Gong Ah-so after she gets the deputyship order from the court. Yeah, but here's the thing again. There might be disputes between family members or who gets the order. It will cost thousands of dollars in legal fees to get it, and it might take months before the order is issued. Moreover, with an LPA that's done by Gong Ah-so before she lost her mental capacity, Gong Bilang will not need to submit annual reports. However, if Gong Bilang is the deputy that's appointed by the court to handle Gong Ah-so's affairs, she has to submit annual reports. So yes, the LPA saves everyone lots of headache and lots of money and time. The most difficult part is actually having that first conversation, as it seems like it's something taboo. Because after that, doing an LPA is simple, like really simple. If you are looking to advertise your business in this channel, we can help you. There are guaranteed views and many big brands have trusted us. Just click on the link in the description. Well, it's actually super simple. Of course, the person doing the LPA must be the person going to appoint a donee. So going back to the Gong family example, only Gong Ah-so can do the LPA for herself. And for most people, there are just 4 steps. The first step is choosing a donee. Just a recap, a donee is a person you are appointing to make decisions for you if you lose your mental capacity. The person must be at least 21 years old and obviously someone you trust wholeheartedly. And here's something interesting. You can appoint up to 2 donees and 1 replacement donee. Now, your donee can be a family member like your spouse or your child or even a close friend. The most important thing is that you trust this person to act in your best interest. And here, you also have to decide, if you appoint more than 1 donee, do they make decisions jointly, meaning both must agree on every single decision, or jointly and severally, meaning either one can make decisions on their own? And guess what? That's the most difficult step, because after that, it's easy. You will then need to fill up the LPA form online. To do that, just walk into the office of the Public Guardian Online Portal, also known as OPGO, using your SingPass. Then, you can appoint your trusted person as your donee and decide on the powers to be granted to them. Now, there are 2 types of LPA forms. Form 1 is the standard form that grants your donee general powers with basic restrictions. This is what most people who have made an LPA use. Form 2 is for those who want customized and specific powers. Like maybe you want to say your donor can sell your property but cannot touch your investments. But this must be drafted by a lawyer. So for people like me, it's pointless. Because I've got nothing to customize, as my only assets is $6.94 in my bank account. For the vast majority of people, Form 1 will be more than enough. Once you have submitted the form, your donees will receive a notification through SingPass to log into OPGO to accept their appointment. The next step is when you need to leave your house because you need to visit a certificate issuer in person. The certificate issuer can be either a practicing lawyer, a psychiatrist, or an accredited doctor. What the certificate issuer does is basically to make sure that you understand the purpose of the LPA and nobody is forcing you to make one. Now, the certificate issuer will charge a professional fee, and depending on the certificate issuer, the fees may vary. It's likely that doctors from GP clinics charge the lowest, with MSF saying that the 10 most visited accredited medical practitioners charge fees between $25 to $80, with most charging $50 for the certificate issuing service. Some places can charge up to thousands, which are usually for unique cases, so call up before you head over. And here's the thing, your donee doesn't even need to be there for the certification. Only you, the donor, need to be present. Oh, and remember to bring along the mobile phone that you stated in your LPA with the SingPass app installed because signing is done digitally now. After your LPA is certified, processing may take about 8 working days, followed by a 3-week waiting period where the OPG will put out a public notification in case anyone wants to object. You know kind of like how we get married whereby it will be put up for people to object. If no one objects, your LPA will be registered and you and your donees will be notified via SMS or email. So, to sum up, decide on who to be a donee, fill in the form online, visit a certificate issuer, and wait for it to be registered. The entire process can take up to 4 to 6 weeks from start to finish, but the actual effort on your part is less than an hour of your time. If you are a Singaporean and you use Form 1, you literally pay $0 in application fees to OPG. The only thing you need to pay is the certificate issuer's professional fee, which can be as low as $25. But why? Why so good? They are doing this because Singapore is facing a very real demographic challenge. In 2025, residents aged 65 and above made up 18.8% of the total resident population in Singapore, and Singapore is one of the most rapidly aging societies in Asia. By 2030, around 1 in 4 citizens will be aged 65 and above. And here's where it gets even more concerning. Projections suggest that the number of people living with dementia in Singapore could reach 152,000 by 2030. According to a study by the Institute of Mental Health, about 1 in 11 individuals aged 60 and above in Singapore lives with dementia, and that number goes up to a whopping 1 in 2 for those aged 85 and above. So with more people potentially losing their mental capacity and more families potentially going through the nightmare of having to apply for a Deputyship Order, spending thousands of dollars in legal fees and waiting months while their loved ones' assets are frozen, it's important that you do your LPA now while you still can. Now that you know more about LPA, let's look at another thing that's equally important, which is better, rice or noodles. Yeah, we once use science and statistics to determine if rice or noodles are better. Watch this for the conclusion of whether rice or noodles are better. Also, if you want to advertise with us, even as a standalone video, do contact us. Thank you for spending almost 8 minutes with me. I really appreciate it and hope you learned something.